Hey, y'all, this is Lou from Brawl Stars, and welcome to the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
The podcast where if we're feeling cute, we might narfle the Garthok later. I don't know. It's a maybe.
Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wish Upon a Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you will give Red Shirt Crewman number 8. He'll know that when he puts on the red shirt and is killed when the machines take over, 19 minutes after Sarah Connor went back in time, that he didn't leave his family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has his back and his gearbox.
All right, our guest today is not just a voiceover actor, but also the lead singer of the SteamPunk band, The Cog is Dead. Welcome to the show, the one, the only, John Mondelli.
Welcome to the show, John.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
We're very excited to have you on. We're Kathleen is a big fan.
I might be the biggest excitement. I'm trying not to completely freak out over here.
So
It's not working.
So yeah, her and her husband are big fans of The Cog is Dead, and so she's
Played
been
some of your
talking.
music at our wedding reception.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. And so she's been telling me about you for a while, and then she's like, "Hey, did you know he's a voiceover actor too?" And I went, "No, I did not." And so we said we should probably get him on the show, and then you agreed, and that's how you got here. That's the Cliff Notes version. But so we have some questions we want to run by you today, and then at the end we got a little quiz game for you, and you might be able to go home with non-fabulous prizes. But anyway, they're prizes.
Go home or remain home, and they will
Remain
just
home, and
sue
we
you.
ship them with you. I just want to make it sound like a real game show.
I
Leave me
know.
Leave me alone, Kathleen. God.
Bringing the reality back.
All right. So, John, let's talk about inspiration. Because for every career path, there's typically a story about how someone got into that line of work, that they did, how they're doing what they wanted to do. So for you, being a singer, being a voice actor, what were some of your musical and maybe even acting influences that made little John Mondelli say, I want to be this when I grow up?
I guess in a way, if I really think about it, like with the voiceover and acting, it might go back to Robin Williams. And I've been a fan of cartoons and animation all my life, and I always loved watching behind the scenes specials when they'd show the actors recording. And I was also a big fan of Robin Williams as a kid, and I knew he did the voice of the genie in Aladdin. And so I loved just sort of seeing the behind the scenes process of having an actor come in the studio and create the voice of a character. That wasn't something that I thought I'd eventually be doing someday, but I was like really captivated by the whole process and thought it was really cool. So that, along with down the road seeing other voice actors do it, I just thought it was a really cool thing.
Sure.
But before I got into doing voice acting, I guess more as a profession, I was going a little bit more toward the music aspect of what I do. And as far as inspiration for that goes, I grew up listening to a lot of classic rock and stuff. I loved the Beatles, Queen, Elton John and Billy Joel, and lots of other stuff too. But one of my biggest musical influences ever is Weird Al. I got really into comedy music in the 90s when I was growing up, listening to people like Ray Stevens, who did like a lot of comedy country. So I loved comedy. Either way, the same thing goes for the cartoons and acting as well. So I think from a very young age, I always knew I wanted to do something entertainment related, whether it was acting or being a comedian or making movies or something. It was just always something to do with entertaining. So those were all big things that sort of were formative for me in becoming the kind of crazy person that I am.
Fantastic. Okay, so here's a secondary question to that I thought of while you were answering that, because you said Weird Al. So I have to know, what's your favorite Weird Al song?
Oh, I don't know. There are so many. I'm one of the people that has every single Weird Al album.
Sure. I can respect that, because I know somebody like that. Anyway, I mean, I have my personal, I can tell you what my favorite is. It's the song it's the parody of the R. Kelly, the Stuck in the Drive-Thru. It's like
Sure.
13 minutes long, and I think I played that with my wife when we were on our way down to Tennessee a couple years ago for a family vacation. And I put that on, and I think by about minute number 6, she was homicidal, and
And yet here you are.
and yet somehow I'm still living. But that was very entertaining for me. She didn't think so as much, but.
And actually, one of my favorites is another one that's very long. It's Albuquerque, which is I think it's like 11 minutes long, and
Yes.
it's just this completely ridiculous rambling story, and it's similar to Trapped in the Drive-Thru, but it's an original song, but just completely absurd.
Yeah.
Now we call him Torso Boy.
Yeah. So I know that some of our listeners and our viewers are going to question what a steampunk artist is doing on a science fiction show. But to nerd out, because that's what we do. So steampunk is based off of the original science fiction stories. So 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, The Time Machine, and so on. And then these classic literary pieces have fueled, and then steampunk has grown from that. And then we can see steampunk's influence in some of our favorite science fiction now: Firefly, Mad Max, Warehouse 13. So what are some of your favorite steampunk movies, TV series, or other media, and what got you into the genre in the first place?
Hold on 1 second. So what you're trying to tell me is that steampunk isn't just suspenders and big glasses on bowler hats?
It's not just that, Tim.
Okay,
And it's
we're
not
good.
just gears glued to your guitar. There
Okay.
is so much more to it.
Okay, I'm learning things. Go ahead, John.
But I would agree. I think steampunk completely fits into science fiction because I always just describe it in the simplest terms as Victorian science fiction. Just like you mentioned, Jules Verne and H.G. Wells, a lot of these authors, and most of the songs that at least we wrote, especially in the earlier days, were sort of science fiction related. Like there's a song about a time machine, or there's songs about inventors and all kinds of science fiction related things that are just sort of set in a Victorian world. So I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Talking about what your favorite steampunk movies,
right.
TV, and then what got you into the genre.
I'm trying to think. You mentioned Firefly. I do love Firefly, even though it's not really a steampunk series, but it has some steampunk influence. I remember seeing the movie Steam Boy a while back and thinking it was really cool. I think the earliest exposure, even though not really knowing what it was called, was the movie Wild Wild West, which gets a lot of flack, but I think it's still a lot of fun.
I love that one.
But yeah, I guess I actually kind of discovered steampunk by accident when we were forming the band. It originally didn't have a specific theme. I was just talking with my dad, who was a drummer, and he and I started like jamming and just decided to start a band. And my friend Chris, who was learning to play the bass, and we were just gonna start a band for fun. And I was toying around with the idea of making a custom modified guitar just because I wanted something to sort of stand out, that might get some attention. And so I was looking on Google for ideas for unique custom guitars, and I came across a steampunk guitar. I didn't know the term steampunk at the time, but it was just this really cool, like rusted mechanical guitar that had all these brass pipes and rivets and gears. And I just thought it looked really cool. So I showed that to Chris, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that's a steampunk guitar." And that was the first time I'd heard the term steampunk. And he had known about it and showed me an anime called now it's blanking I think it's Last Exile, which has a lot of steampunk aesthetic as well. So he kind of introduced me to the whole steampunk world from there. So then I just started looking up more and more steampunk instruments to see if anyone had done other steampunk designs on their guitars. And that's when I discovered a band called Abney Park, who is another steampunk band. At that time was one of the only steampunk bands in existence, I think, other than Vernian Process. It was a very, very small, like brand new musical scene at the time. So based off of discovering that there were a few steampunk bands out there, I thought this might be a really cool direction to take our band. And ironically, we had already had the name The Cog is Dead selected before discovering steampunk. It was a complete coincidence. I don't know if I've told the story before, but I'll mention on here. the way we came about with the name was we were trying to just come up with a name for the band, and I randomly picked up this book. It was a book of plays by Tom Stoppard, and I was just hanging out with my friends, goofing around, and I opened it up to a random page, pointed at it, and then just looked at and read the first thing I pointed at, which was a phrase on the page that said, "The cog is dead." So I just read that out loud, and a friend of mine, Will, who was in the room, said, "Hey, that should be the name of your band." And I'm like, that sounds really stupid. I don't know. That's a terrible name. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, well, there's no one else with that name. It's unique. So we just settled on the name The Cog is Dead before discovering SteamPunk. It was a crazy, perfect coincidence. Because now
it's perfectly.
Yeah, like I can't believe it just happened by chance.
Fantastic.
And then building off of that into the song The Death of the Cog. That's fantastic.
Thank you. And that was one of the first songs written really early on, and part of that was because we were getting together and just jamming and playing music, and we had the name The Cog is Dead. We thought, well, there should be some sort of explanation for what that means, so coming up with a song that was sort of an origin story explaining how digital clocks were invented leading to the death of the cog might help people understand what the cog is dead means. It means basically that digital technology has killed off analog technology.
That's cool. I think my first exposure to anything steampunk was I saw a steampunk version of R2D2 and C3PO, and I just thought those were really cool. I don't remember investigating what steampunk was much more than that. I just like, oh, that's really cool. And then I kept seeing that, like, steampunk versions of different superheroes and different space travel things. I was like, oh, and that's when I started looking into what steampunk was.
And it's funny, is like my first experience with steampunk was when I was a teenager, and like the aesthetic is what drew me to it, with the Victorian wear, the corsets, the gears, the top hats. I mean, it's just aesthetically it's so cool. And then when I met my husband, the first like mixed CD he made for me was an Abney Park CD. Like he burned a bunch of Abney Park songs on a CD for me with the, "Hey, you said you like steampunk, here, try this." So the first song I listened to was Steampunk Revolution, and it was the, wait a minute, this is fantastic. But then as we were dating, before we actually got to the point of saying I love you, he sent me Let Me Be Your Man. Like he sent me a link to it with the, "Hey, listen to this." And I'm like, oh, you're so cute. This is great. Like the steampunk has grown with our relationship. Our relationship has grown with steampunk. It's cool. And I don't know. I'm just nerding out
really
about
awesome.
steampunk music.
I have more and more respect for John. He wooed you with music.
He did. And then the mother son dance at our wedding was to My Metal Boy. Like,
oh
yeah, that's what they danced to, was My Metal Boy. It was so cute.
And just for clarification, Kathleen's husband is also named John. I probably should have mentioned that earlier, but I like you too, John. I mean, I'm impressed by you as well. So just for clarification's sake.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad that Let Me Be Your Man sort of did its job, because I was single when I wrote the song, but I was just kind of writing that with the idea of like, this is the kind of husband that I want to be. And so I'm glad that it kind of that message came across.
It worked.
It found its home. There you go.
So John, you do also have a voice acting career. So what pets do you have or ever had, and do you put voices to these pets?
Yeah, we have a fair amount of pets, actually. We have a dog, a cat, 2 cockatiels, I can't remember if it's 6 or 8 parakeets, and a fish.
Wow.
But I think the only ones we usually give voices to are our dog, but usually it's, I think, just the usual goofy hyper dog voice.
Right. Oh, hi.
Right, kind of like that. I can't actually think, because usually it's kind of random. It depends on his mood and his excitement.
Yeah.
And it's funny, it's like you say that it's that dog voice, and I hear it in my head because that's the same voice everybody gives to
everybody. Who's your good puppy?
that kind of slow, kind of dumb because you're kind of slow, but I love you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
My
we
dog
have-
who got her head stuck in the fence today. Yeah, it happens. She was trying to attack a snake and got her head stuck in the fence.
There's that.
She's cute, but she's not smart.
Yeah, we have the same problem with we have a 6-month-old pit bull right now, and she's 17 shades of adorable and cuddly and loving and all these great things, but the brain train passed her a long time ago. Whew.
Also,
Just-
speaking of animals, I'm currently dealing with possums in the basement, which I
no.
just found out about last night. I heard this noise. I'm like, it sounds like there's something in the house, and I went downstairs, or actually, it's an outside door. So I went outside, opened the door, turned on the lights, and there was a possum that just jumped up onto a shelf, and then I looked and saw another one. So I'm like, okay, and closed the door.
Walk away.
Oh, would you
So-
look at the time? I'll deal with that later.
Oh, yikes.
So we have plenty of animals in our house right now.
Just not all of them are the ones you want there.
Right.
Not all of them have been invited.
Yeah, exactly. Some of them have overstayed their welcome. All right, so John, I took a few moments and I watched your YouTube voiceover demo reel, and I have to say I was impressed with some of the characters that were on there, and some of the roles that you've been able to portray. Ones that I didn't know that you were doing, like these for some for like mobile video games or other video games like Spider-Man. There's some Star-Lord, or as others may know him as Peter Quill from Guardians of the Galaxy, and of course we can't forget the grunting Viking dude from Clash of Clans Clash Royale. So tell me, out of all of the many jobs that you've done, which has been your favorite voice to portray and why? And you can't pick the grunting dude from Clash of Clans. Although that is funny, because I have to say, when I got to that point of the demo reel and I hear I was like, that would have been fun to do.
That was the whole job too. Just like about a 20-minute recording session of just screams and grunts. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say what my absolute favorite was. There have been a lot of cool ones. I really loved getting to do the voice of Chuck E. Cheese. And that was a very small thing. It wasn't like, an ongoing thing, but they opened a Chuck E. Cheese location in Dubai and hired me to do a couple of commercials in their like on hold messaging system when you call.
Right.
And so that was really fun. And it was the first time I think getting to do an iconic franchise character.
Mhm.
So just and seeing the animation, because when I finally saw it finished, I was really surprised that they actually went all out with the same quality animation you see on like the national commercials here. So it was just really fun to do a character, and a character I've known pretty much all my life.
Sure.
But yeah, even some of those, and most of them have been like mobile apps, like you mentioned, doing Spider-Man, or some of the other ones like My Little Pony or Transformers. Of course, those aren't like characters quite as big as maybe Spider-Man is, but it's been cool, just the various and unexpected characters I've got to do over the years. It's always random. You never know what jobs are going to come along, and you never know which one you're going to get cast in. But it's been a cool journey.
I'll believe that. All right, cool.
So during the wonderful year plus long pandemic, you've done a couple of songwriting sessions on live stream, which I know my husband and I were partaking in one of them, which was the Airship Pirate Cats and Underwater Ducks, which also may be one of my favorite songs. And I believe that there was tuba and bass arrangement in those, which made me think of polka, which makes me think of Weird Al, who we've already mentioned, because Weird Al is just amazing. So obviously you said he was one of your influences. So is there something specific about him that really influenced your music? And is there anybody else musically influential? Oh, that's a hard word.
Sure. I think for me as a kid, immediately the thing that drew me to Weird Al was just song parody in general. It was my first time really hearing somebody that did comedic takes and changing the lyrics of existing popular songs. But when I really became a big fan and bought his albums and started listening to every song, I was really impressed by his musical diversity and ability to play and write so many different styles. Because I mean, obviously he does parodies of whatever genre of song is currently popular, but half of the album is also original songs, and the albums are filled with original songs that are very diverse. Every song is a different genre and different style, and that really kind of shaped my idea of what an album should be. Like, not just every song sounding the same. And there are some bands that have one genre and one sound and do it very well. But I've always loved variety. And so that's also why I think I gravitated toward other artists. Like I mentioned earlier, the Beatles had albums that were very diverse. So did Queen, and Billy Joel and Elton John. I always mention them because they were very eclectic songwriters and musicians and had so much diversity and range. And so I've always sort of tried to not mimic those artists, but I mean, with certain exceptions, but as far as in general, I've always wanted to make albums that are kind of like a musical roller coaster ride. You have one style, then suddenly you're somewhere else, and there's just a nice diverse variety of stuff, so that the album from start to finish is just this kind of fun ride that you never get bored of.
That makes a lot of sense, and I do see that in the Kaga's Dead albums, definitely, that no two songs sound the same,
right?
And that makes it easier to listen to as an album, and especially with like steam powered stories, like you get the whole story. You did a good job.
Right. Thank you. But yeah, I've always liked the idea of listening to an album from start to finish. Some people I know just like to get singles or listen to individual songs here and there, but I've always felt like if you're going to buy an album, it should be the same as getting a movie. It's something that you should be able to put it on and listen to the entire thing, especially if you're gonna buy the whole album. You should be able to enjoy the whole thing all the way through. Yeah.
I can't tell you how many records, cassettes, CDs I've gotten rid of over the years because I couldn't listen to it all the way through. There was only the one song that was any good off of it. And so I love it when I can sit down with a record, and especially because I am a vinyl collector, when I can sit down with a record, I put it on the record player and I can listen to the whole thing. And I don't have to stop it and go, okay, I'm going to skip that track and I'm going to go up to the next one. So that I understand what you're saying there. I love that premise.
So oftentimes for us to pass time, sometimes we'll get creative with our workplace and we like to make fun, silly rules. So question, what are some of the unwritten rules of your sound booth?
What do you mean by rules of the sound booth?
So for instance, we color code everything that we're going to talk to somebody about. So because we try not to, that's our unwritten rule. We try not to talk over top of each other. We have Tim always forgets to record, so Nick has to remind him. That's also a unwritten rule, and as you saw earlier. Just little things that we do and how we set it up for like each one of our interviews, how we write the interview, how we structure the interview. Just
right.
We have little things that we do to try and make it the same way.
Like Kathleen's background is always very strange.
Trying to think, especially because for the most part, it's a very isolated process. I write and produce the music. If we have record days with other band members, they come in and record, but for the most part, it's me. And especially recently, with the pandemic and everyone else being so busy, I've been writing and recording everything myself. So I have been just kind of isolated. So I haven't had to have necessarily unwritten rules for other band members recently.
Like no eating at the drum set.
Drums are not to be used as tables.
Renata can eat and drum at the same time. She eats a lot.
She's a very talented woman.
That's impressive. No nacho supreme at the mixing board, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm kind of messy, and I try to keep things clean. That's one thing that I keep trying to make myself do, is keep my workspace clean, because I feel like mentally I'm more efficient when I have a clean workspace, but I'm also a very cluttered person. So I'll clean the room, and then within a few days I've set something down here, because I never put stuff back. If I'm looking for like a microphone, I'll get a bin out, take it out, and then just set the box down on the floor. And so that's something that I'm trying to drill into my head, is to always put things back where they belong and keep my space clean, because otherwise the whole studio just becomes a cluttered mess. But since I'm the only one working in here, then it doesn't. I have nobody to tell me to clean up or get on my case. So, I just come in here and deal with it until finally I'm like, okay, I have to clean this up because I can't take it anymore.
I can get that. Yeah.
And then you don't know where your cables are because you didn't put them away. And
I have a very strong, in my office, on my desk, I have a place for everything, and everything's in its place. And I go a little nutso when somebody moves something, like, hey, that was my thing. I had my thing in my place. And why did you move it from? Anyway. It's a thing. My wife doesn't like that one either.
My husband had his own space. He had his own office, and then we had a baby, and he doesn't have an office space anymore. His office space is in our dining room now. Like, he has a desk instead of our dining room table. But it's that, like, he'll put something down and then he won't be able to find it. And it's like, 2.5-year-old. There's a 2.5-year-old. You're never going to find that again.
You have a miniature wandering thief running through the house. That's what you have.
There's a hobbit. There's a thief Baggins.
You have a Nori.
So the problem is we don't have a 2.5-year-old wandering around the house. I'll set something down on the floor next to me, and then set something else on top of it. Like a few months ago, I couldn't find a cable. I searched all over, and then just went and bought another one because I couldn't find it. And then a few days later, I picked up a box. I'm like, oh, there it is.
Okay, so John Wass, when you're listening, it's not just you, but that doesn't make it okay.
I was gonna say, did you ask the possums downstairs?
That's maybe they're making their own little possum band.
They have their own organizational structure. You might have to ask them how they categorize things. So
the number of times though that things get put on top of something and then you can never find it again because there's something on top of it.
Yep,
it happens.
All right, so we have a couple questions for you here about some of your parody things that you've done, some of your video shorts. But I want to first comment about how it's perhaps one of the worst kept secrets, right next to the I Hate Elvis Presley. By the way, if you're listening and you're wondering why, he's a song stealing thief, and that's a hill I'm ready to die on. Anyway, but I'm also.
You don't want to be my teddy bear?
Nope, it's not even up for discussion. Elvis sucks. But I'm also not a huge Trekkie fan. And most people acknowledge that by now. But one of the worst kept secrets is I actually hate musicals. I hate that people feel obligated to sing what could have easily just been spoken.
No.
But there are exceptions to every rule, except the Elvis rule. He sucks. That one's ironclad. There's only ever, and my wife has taken me to many different musicals. The only one that I've ever really enjoyed was the Phantom of the Opera. I was blown away by the sets, the scenery, everything else. Not so much the singing, because again, you could have just talked all those lines. You didn't need to sing them.
Or you could sing them, and it's more fun.
Or, and hear me out, you could just talk. Anyway, however, I'm willing to
choreographed dance number.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm willing to take a swing at another one. Sand People, the musical. The off Broadway production. So how did this all come together, and how long till it's only off Broadway?
Well, it may be a while with the pandemic, but that was the creation of my friends at And You Films, a YouTube channel that produces a bunch of comedy parody videos, and they came up with it and wrote the lyrics and then came to me to produce the music. We've done that on a few of the different parodies and stuff. They're a pretty funny team. I've known them for a long time, going back all the way back to high school. I was in class with Brendan, who's the, I guess, co-founder of the company, and I worked with them for many years on several of these parodies. So that one, I don't know whose idea, if it was Brendan or Will, but they're the two kind of head writers and producers over there, and they came to me with the script and the lyrics and told me what they wanted to do. And of course, anything music related, I'm totally on board for. Anytime they come to me with a job. Most recently, they've done a series of it's a series called Scene Riff that does various reimaginings of different scenes, like stupid alternate takes of different scenes from classic movies from the 80s and 90s. And so I got to do a lot of music, like sound alikes for certain movie themes, since for copyright reasons they can't use the real music, so they had me create versions that sounded very similar but were different enough for copyright purposes.
Understood. Yeah.
But yeah, that one was a lot of fun, just taking various, I guess, pop songs and re-recording them with I guess Boba Fett as a lounge singer.
Because you were Boba in that, weren't you?
Yeah, I did both. I wasn't on camera, but I recorded the voice of Boba Fett and a couple of or I guess a fair amount of the Sand People, a lot of grunting and just kind of sounds. And trying to do that to music.
That would have been like the perfect moment for your chair to break, Tim. Just to like fall over.
I was fully not expecting that. All right. Good job. Well done.
So even more with the parody videos and with And You films, because you had mentioned in a Facebook post about the scene riffs. I am a huge fan of the Diabeatles.
Thank you.
Like, I love the Diabeatles videos because they're hilarious. But you talk about the work with it as it being a painstakingly match of the Hollywood style with no budget.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, is there anything of those videos that you were especially proud that you pulled off, even with that zero budget?
I think a lot of things, mainly for that reason. And You films, as I mentioned, started back in high school, so it was a grassroots thing from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And the name just comes from back in high school. Brendan used to do these old, like, 1950s style educational film parodies, so it would be like, your school and you, and so every video is this and you, and so that became the name of the company. So yeah, I mean, it literally started out as a company just with some newly graduated kids just starting out with no idea what we were doing, and just put a lot of passion and a lot of time going into learning certain techniques and trying to figure out how to become filmmakers. And yeah, I definitely think on a lot of those, especially the parodies where we really worked hard to mimic the visual style of certain films. We've done like The Hobbit or the show The Walking Dead, where we would try to replicate the look of the shots as closely as possible and match the lighting and the cinematography, and all done with no budget. So just we didn't have high-end equipment. It was just kind of trying to figure out the techniques to replicate it with without spending any money. And I'm also just really happy overall with the way that YouTube channel has gone. It's I think it's gotten over 100,000 subscribers now finally, and beginning to get an audience after years of work. And overall, I'm also just proud of the parodies themselves. I think a lot of them are funny, and were so much fun to be a part of. And I got to do so many things because it was such a small team, so we're all wearing multiple hats. I was sometimes cinematographer and or editor or sound mixer or music producer or actor, and all of us kind of did all all things while working on it, because it was basically just 3 people as the production team.
Yeah. So just, I don't know, Tim, you didn't watch any of the Beatles videos?
I had not had a chance to watch those yet. I'll be honest with you. For hating musicals, I may have watched the Sand People one about 6 or 7 times last night, because I found myself laughing harder every single time I watched it.
So out of pure curiosity, because I want to see if we can make Tim fall out of his chair, can you do a little bit of the Beatles for us?
Sure. I'm trying to think of I don't know if I can play the songs on my guitar because it's been so long since I did this. But yeah, the Beatles, if you don't know already what it is, it's a commercial for a greatest hits album of the Beatles, which is a band of 4 Wilford Brimleys doing diabetes themed Beatles songs. So there were things like yesterday diabetes seemed so far away, now my doctor says it's here to stay. So, things like that. There were a bunch of
okay. 4 Wilford Brimleys. All right.
A whole bunch of those songs. All type 2. That's what I have. Take injections for your blood sugar.
See, nice. And I think that one hit me so much when I first saw it, because being a 90s kid, and like the Wilford Brimley diabetes commercials were huge.
Oh yeah. Diabetes. Absolutely.
Got diabetes. And so then to see 4 Wilford Brimley singing Beatles songs.
Oh, yeah, that's good stuff.
It gets me every time. Every time. Like there have been times that I've been in a bad mood. My husband's just like starts the Beatles commercial to get me to laugh. It works.
I also got a good laugh out of, and I shared it around on a couple different pages. You did a Luke Combs parody of
Beer Makes Me Fart.
Yeah, Beer Makes Me Fart. Ice cold. Yeah, that was good stuff.
The only problem I have with that one is the beard. It's so terrible.
Well, Luke Combs isn't exactly known for having a very put together beard. It's
that is
very
the
much
longest I have ever let my facial hair grow out, and it's mainly because of the pandemic. Because I'm home, I don't have to go anywhere.
Right.
So I just kind of tried to let it grow out for that video, and so yeah, it was getting pretty unbearable after a while, just constantly dealing with all this scruff on my neck.
So as the woman's point of view question, what did your wife think of that?
She does not like facial hair. Yeah, for the most part, she was completely against it. She kind of liked it after like a little while. She starting to come in a little thick though. She's like, this is kind of working for me. But I think by the time we got to the point it was at with the video, she was like, yeah, she said I was starting to look like a hobo, and I completely
and done.
See, but I can understand that there is that stage of like 3 or 4 day scruff where it's starting to look like a beard, and it's that, this might be okay. And then it gets a little longer and you're like, or not. Never mind.
Yep. Plus, I mean, for me, it comes in so patchy. I can't really grow like a full thick beard. So it just looks really, really rough, I think, on me. It's very scraggly.
It worked for the video.
Thank you.
So talking parodies is usually a mixture between 2 things. And our Facebook page is filled with all sorts of memes and stuff that have is pretty much parody of all sorts of things in different genres. So you have steampunk and you have voiceovers under your belt, and you just have like a very broad range. So what are some other like sci-fi interest that you have?
It's funny. I guess I can't say like I'm a hardcore sci-fi fan. I did really enjoy watching Star Trek: The Next Generation growing up. I haven't seen it in years, so I'm like no expert when it comes to trivia or anything like that. But I always had a love for that. And actually, Quantum Leap was one of my favorite shows when I was a kid.
That was a fun show.
Yeah. One funny thing is, I'm I enjoy Star Wars. I'm not like a hardcore Star Wars fan. And yet we worked on a movie, me and the guys from And You Films. That was one of the things we did really early on, right out of high school. We wanted to make a full-length feature film. So we made this like large scale sci-fi comedy about a movie studio in the future, but they had me play a character named Rufus Lucas, who was like a great descendant of George Lucas, because this was 1,000 years in the future. And so I played a homeless man who only speaks using quotes from Star Wars. So every single line of dialogue I have in the film is a Star Wars quote, even though I'm really not all that familiar with the movies that well.
That's funny. I like the concept of that.
But that was a major project. That was something that took about 10 years to finish. In fact, The Cog is Dead was started as a side project to that. When we, like right out of high school, we started working on the movie and worked on it, filming for like 3 years. And that was kind of my whole life, was working on this movie. But then I also wanted to start a band. So I was like, oh, I'll just do that on the side. And then eventually that sort of became now my like main career that I'm doing, all these years later.
Excellent. All right, John. So we've gotten to a point of the show where we want to do a little bit of trivia here with you. Okay. So these quiz questions are based upon some of the voice acting roles that you've had over the years, things that were in your demo reel. So there'll be 5 questions. Each of the questions are multiple choice. If you get 3 of the questions correct, we would like to send you one of these high-speed red and white I gave to the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund coffee mugs. Nice. If you get 4 of the questions right, we're going to send you that coffee mug along with, I can't remember how to do this. This book right there, Custodians of the Cosmos. We'll jump around that microphone yet.
Only one microphone hit this time.
Only one. I'm getting better. But yeah, so this is Custodians of the Cosmos. This is written by Drayton Allen, and it's all about a young man who decides he wants to grow up and join Starfleet, but he fails the entrance test and tries to rejoin as a custodian to boldly clean up after those who boldly just went. So, however, that's the winning side of things. If you should lose our fun little 5-question game, that means you get less than 3 questions correct. We're going to take a picture of you, make a meme out of you, and put it in your group. We call it our fun sequence.
All right.
Do you agree to these terms, sir?
I do. I hope I know my own resume well enough.
And they're based off of your resume, but it's like the universe is attached to them. It might be one of our harder quizzes.
Oh my.
I'm proud of us for this.
I was told I throw out too many softballs, so this is not a softball.
All right. Well, I will give it my best.
All right. Question
I'm getting my camera ready.
1. Which famous sci-fi duo appears in the background of several episodes of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic? A. Captain Picard and Lieutenant Data. B. Doctor Who and Rose Tyler. Or C. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker.
I'm not sure. I haven't seen enough of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. I just want to say B.
You are correct.
Ha! He's
Dr.
Right.
Hooves.
That's awesome.
All right, there's one.
Yes.
Pinkie Pie is proud of you. Look at her face.
Why did J. Jonah Jameson prefer Lance Bannon's Spider-Man photos over Peter Parker's? A, they were cheaper. B, Bannon was his nephew. Or C, they made Spider-Man look bad.
I want to say C. That makes sense to me.
Final answer.
Yes, final answer.
Okay, yes.
You are correct.
Yes.
2 for 2. All right.
All right. Question 3. What childhood crush is Peter Quill's ship named after? A. Kim Bassinger. B. Alyssa Milano. Or C. Heather Locklear.
Shoot. I don't know for sure either. I'm also going to guess C on this one.
You guessed wrong this time. It
His ship-
is Alyssa Milano.
Ah,
His ship
Yeah.
is the Milano.
The Milano. He actually talks about who's the boss several times in the movie.
I should have
So.
watched that again.
Which
All right, 2 out of 3.
which Spider-Man villain did not work for Oscorp? Electro, Green Goblin, or Mysterio?
Would it be Mysterio?
You would be correct.
Yes.
And you'll be the winner of a I Gave to the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund coffee mug.
All right.
All right, and question 5. You've made it out of the meme zone. According to Chris Pratt, Star-Lord is a mix of which 2 iconic characters? A. Han Solo and Marty McFly. B. Captain Kirk and Ferris Bueller. Or C. James Bond and Pee Wee Herman. That last. Ugh.
I don't know if I've heard it or him mention it or not, but I think Han Solo and Marty McFly makes sense. So I'll go with that.
You are correct.
Yes.
Right.
I am now
Yes.
needing to see a James Bond Pee Wee Herman combo, though.
And that means you get the book as well.
Awesome.
So we'll make
All
sure
right.
that Drayton puts some calligraphy in the front of that before we send it off to you.
I think
But,
that needs to be in one of your next parody videos. James Bond Pee Wee Herman.
That needs to be a thing. I would love to see that.
It sounds painful.
Oh, it will be. And my childhood will be shot in the face as soon as that start with it, but I will still want to see it.
That sounds almost as bad as Thor Shagnarok, which is another parody we worked on.
Yes, I saw that as well. Yeah, Austin Powers.
Austin Powers as Thor.
Yeah. Good times. All right. So 4 out of 5. Not bad. And we actually tried to make that a little more difficult than our some of our other
That
ones.
was tough.
Our guests are too smart for us.
You have
All
to
right.
dig deeper.
Well, John, thank you so much for being on the show with us today. Where can people go to find out more about your works and what you're working on next?
Well, there are various social media outlets. As far as The Cog is Dead goes, there's YouTube, youtube.com/The Cog is Dead. Pretty much everything /The Cog is Dead. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, although I don't tweet all that much. So, yeah, I guess Facebook and Instagram are usually the best places to find updates. And then YouTube is where you get all the new songs and stuff when they come out. And then as far as voiceover goes, I'm on Instagram at John Mondelli Voice, and Twitter, I think John Mondelli VO. And I've actually been posting more stuff on YouTube as well, which I can't remember if it's John Mondelli or something like that. But you can always just search John Mondelli on YouTube and find me. So I've been posting videos more recently about the different characters I voiced and sharing my experiences with working on those projects. But yeah, I think that's about it. Other than, of course, the websites, thecogisdead.com and johnmondelli.com.
Awesome.
We will make sure that those links are all in our description so that people can find more about you and more about your work.
Sorry to give you so many links.
No, that's
it's
okay.
fine.
It keeps our fingers busy. Now, I want to remind everybody that we're going to try that again. All right. So we want to remind everyone that subscribing is the single most important thing you can do to ensure that we get more amazing guests like John Mondelli here today and funny moments for you to be able to listen to. So please subscribe. It helps more than we can ever really tell you and more than we can ever really say. So, and we want to make sure that you also go check out not only John's work with The Cog is Dead, John's solo music work that he's been putting out on his own during this wonderful pandemic time, but also check out his voiceover work as well at all the pre-mentioned sites there. And then also, if you're not happy with the content of today's videos, all you have to do is submit in triplicate, of course, to our complaint department, which is headed up by Malcolm Reynolds. And if he finds the complaint to be valid, he will place the offending party into a locked room where they will have to await the start of Firefly Season 2. What, too soon?
Too soon.
And then, of course, if they do try to escape, he promises that by the power of his pretty floral bonnet, he will end them.
Well, thanks again, John.
Absolutely. Thank you. This has been a lot of fun.
Oh, good. We enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right. Goodbye, everyone, and thanks for watching.